Walk with me. So I was reading a bedtime story to Greyson a couple nights ago. I believe the book is titled, "What Do I Do with a Problem?" Kind of sounds like a fun one, right? It's a kid's book, fun story, an analogy about a kid who has this problem with the pictures describing this black cloud that grows and grows and grows. And I won't spoil the story for all of you guys that want a good kids book for yourself or your littles. But obviously, as most kids books are written, it's an analogy meant to deliver a lesson. And the lesson is all about how we perceive problems and really the opportunities they can bring. And we finished the book, and Grayson's curled up next to me and, quasi fallen asleep. And I asked him the question. I say, "It's a good book, right?" "Yeah." "So what was the lesson from the book?" Because I'm always curious as we as parents read these stories and as these authors write these amazing analogies. I'm always curious, how they're received on the other end by the actual kid listening. And it's never what I think it is. I ask that question frequently. And the answer this time, when I asked Greyson after the story, "Hey, what was the lesson?" He rolls over and he looks at me and he says, "Dad, I've never had a problem." And he rolls back over and goes to bed. I said, "That's amazing, buddy. You haven't. I love you. Good night." I thought that was the most perfect answer. A real, genuine, sincere response to the story. Truth for him. And a enlightening shift for me. And I want to talk about this concept of problems in our own lives. What they are, what they aren't, what they can or are meant to be, and our perception or choice around it all. And kid story aside, I know this is a conversation that's going to hit home and something we can all apply instantly in our lives today. Before we get into that topic, I'm going to ask, who is by my side this morning? Don't be shy. Say hello below. No hiding behind the screens on our walks together. Drop it right now. Where are you from? Tell me something good in your life right now. Tell me something you're grateful for in your life right now. Tell me something that is exciting you, inspiring you in your life right now. I want to know. I read them all. Welcome back for those of you guys that are part of the crew, part of the squad, part of the tribe. I love that our community is growing. For those that are new to the crew, welcome, welcome, welcome. We walk together, usually weekly, typically on Wednesdays. You can remember Walk With Me Wednesdays. Live here on my Facebook page, past conversations on the podcast, Alive by Design, all podcast platforms. If you guys listen to podcasts, go subscribe, rate, review. If you don't listen to podcasts, you should. They're amazing, amazing resources today. And the only thing I ask if you're new to the crew is that you participate, add value, contribute in some way, share your perspective, share a thought, agree, disagree, any value you want to add that makes it better for all of us. And as always, if anybody comes to your mind or your heart on any of these topics, give the gift by tagging them in the comments so they get the alert, or sharing this to your peer group. Because I know today's topic is relevant for everybody. Problems. Let's talk about problems. First thing I want to stress about problems is the problem with problems is that we think we're not supposed to have problems. And yes, I'm being literal, not just an alliteration here, right? It's the truth. It's the problem. The problem is we think we're not supposed to have problems. Where in our history did we go so wrong that we've managed to develop this massive expectation that we're not supposed to have problems? And by definition, even the word problem is divisive. It's saying it's not normal by nature of the word. Totally misdefined. Real check-in with you. Be honest. Here's a vulnerability check. How many of you right now are just coming out of a problem, struggle, issue, challenge in your life? You're like right now at this moment, as you're listening, receiving, watching in your life right now, wherever you are. Comment below if you're just coming out of a problem. Maybe a tougher question to admit publicly to all of us friends walking together. How many of you right now in this moment, who you are, where you are right in the middle of a problem? Like right now as we're talking, in the back of your mind the wheels are spinning. Like right now you're in the middle of a problem. If you're strong enough to let us know and admit that, comment below. You'll inspire others to tell the truth, because I'm willing to bet a big percentage of people that see this are in the middle of a problem. And for those of you guys feeling really good about yourself right now, you're like, oh man, I haven't had a problem for a while and I don't have a problem right now, and you're feeling a little swag, a little bravado. Don't worry. I assure you, there is a problem right around the corner. You guys, you know what we call that? Life. And I don't mean to be negative. I'm not negative. Trust me, I'll pull us out of that frame or that reference. But it is the reality that by definition, or how we interpret a problem, we're always coming out of one, in the middle of one, or headed into one. That is what we call normal. And the first thing about problems is this expectation that somehow we inherited and created and are passing down to others, that it's not normal, when the reality is, guys, that is a normal part of life. Going through a challenge, a struggle, an obstacle, something we have to navigate, some resistance, some adjustments, change, any term you want to give, which I think all of those words are better than the word problem, but all fall under the same bucket. We realize that, hey, this is not normal. We had this perfection myth that life is supposed to be easy, smooth. If everything's not happening perfectly the way that we want it to, if we're not genuinely happy 100% of the time, totally fulfilled, and if that's not true every waking moment, then there must be something quote unquote wrong. And that's an unrealistic expectation for everybody. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm an optimist, right? I am a perpetual optimist. That's the way I naturally think. I assume positive intent. I expect things to work out. That's the nature I think I naturally have and try to stick to no matter what I go through. So don't misunderstand me as negative here. It's just an incorrect interpretation when something is occurring that we think this is not normal or something wrong, when there might be another reason that's being put in front of us to begin with. That's a shift. So when we talk about problems, first problem is this notion that we're not supposed to have problems. We got to realize that that's just not the truth. A problem is not a exit from the norm. A problem is not something different than the norm. A problem is not something in our way from how it's meant to be. A problem is a part of the process. We just have to redefine our perception of it, our definition of it, maybe even the language or the word of it. So if the problem isn't a deviation and it's the norm, Well, then the second thing I think we have to understand, and I'm going to go ahead and take a seat here if it's okay with y'all at the top. I think the second thing we have to understand is then, well, why is the problem there? And here I think we have a misperception, again, that's been created of the matter at hand. See, somehow we now think that that is put there to deter us from where we're meant to go. It's a roadblock in the road, right? It is an obstacle in front of us. It is a giant wall that is separating where we are, right, to where we want to be. It is a deviation or detour pointing us in a off direction, right? We assume when something doesn't go our way, the way we want it to be, the way we expect it to be, if it's not the perfect thing that we want in that moment, then it must be an alternative route to the route that we think we're meant to be on. Hello? Where did we get so off track that we think that everything we want is exactly what is meant for us? Talk about maybe a little bit of internal ego getting in our own way, where we think that everything we think is exactly right. Little wake-up call, and I'm sure most of us with some years behind us have come to realize that we don't always get what we want. But I think as Bono put it in a U2 song, we often get what we need. And those are often different things. And we have to be able to learn to accept that, because sometimes what we want, man, that's fun, that's exciting, right? You know, that's joy, that is the shiny object that we think is going to give us pleasure. But let's not be blind to the fact that sometimes all of those things that we think we want aren't even the things that we really need for us, who we are, where we're going, the path that we're meant to be on. So therefore, a problem maybe isn't a roadblock. What if, here's a crazy shift, what if every quote-unquote problem that was put in front of us was actually put in front of us for a reason, and that reason was to give us a lesson, shift a belief, enlighten our perspective. Maybe it's put in front of us to give us the resistance to build the muscle that we didn't have. Maybe that muscle that it's building, that mental muscle, that mindset muscle, that resilience, that fortitude, right? That desire, that willpower, that strength, whatever it is it's going to take to get you through where you are. Maybe that thing put there is put there to give you that which you didn't have, because you're going to need that for what is meant next for you. Hello? What if there's something great waiting around the corner? What if there's something you're meant to do? What if there's a path you're meant to be on? What if it's already written, already created, already there for you? All you have to do is realize you need to go through what you're going through to become the person you are meant to be on that path. And there's no way for you to become that person if that wall isn't put in your way, if that challenge isn't put in front of you, if your belief system isn't tested, if there isn't resistance put to see if you have the desire. You guys, you can't become a championship fighter if you're not willing to face an opponent. Could you imagine a champion fighter that never faced an opponent, just declared themselves a champion, but never had a resistance? That would be silly. Could you imagine a championship team that never faced a competitor? All you did is play by yourself all day long, but you never had a competitor to challenge you or make you better? How could you become a champion? So how can we think that we're going to get to the life we're meant to live without our own opponents, our own competitors, our own resistance in the way to make us better? So when it comes to a problem, and again, I don't like that word, what if we need to make a shift that is actually something being given to us in this moment for a reason, to give us something that we don't have? And if we choose to believe that, what if we take that a step further and realize by going through the problem, we learn the lesson, we build the belief, we get the skill, we become better. maybe as soon as we get what we're meant to receive from that problem, maybe that's the key that unlocks the door that makes the problem go away. I'll give you real life references you can relate to, right? So outside of the mindset or the philosophy, let's get down to practicality. You've all been through this. How many of you guys have ever had a struggle, a challenge, a problem? I mean, it felt like a giant freaking wall. I mean, an unmovable, impenetrable, giant steel, 4-foot thick wall in front of you. And you sat there and beat it and hit it and kicked it and tried every which way to get the thing open, right? Over and over and over again. The thing would not move. This is your problem. But then all of a sudden you get a lesson. You realize, oh, wow, okay, now I see why that was placed there. All of a sudden you grow, you become better. There's a shift. And instead of having to beat down that giant door, it just opens. It's like it evaporates. It's like as soon as you get what you were meant to get, that which was put in front of you to give you that goes away almost by itself. Has that ever happened to you? Or what if we get presented with something and we don't learn the lesson? Even if that specific instance, that person, that matter, that issue, that topic moves on due to time and change, let me ask you a crazy question. If we don't get the lesson that we're meant to get, what happens? Isn't it strange how the world has a funny way of continuing to deliver us the same sort of learning opportunity in different ways until we eventually gravitate the lesson? We will live again and again, repeat again and again, go through again and again that which we're meant to until we grab the lesson that it's there to give. You guys, that's why often so many of us, we end up going through the same hard learnings, right? If you find yourself in a cycle or a pattern where it's the same thing but different faces, the same thing but different names, the same thing but different issues, but it's the same thing, and you're sitting there going, wow, I mean, the world keeps throwing me, why is this happening? Maybe we got to wake up and say, there's a lesson that we have to get, and as soon as we get that, maybe that pattern will stop occurring. What's that for you? And you guys, there's no guilt. We all have these in our life. We all have the things we struggle to get, right? Sometimes we're really bright and really quick, and sometimes we're just not. Sometimes we got to get beat over the head a couple times, right? Until we get it. But the point is, if we realize that it's there for us to get better, and we realize as soon as we get what it's meant to give, the key unlocks the door, it goes away, and we can move on, and not just move past the problem, but become a greater person that allows greater opportunity, that perspective shift changes the way we approach the matter of which is right in front of us right now. How many of you guys right now are rethinking that issue that you're just coming out of? Maybe you're rethinking the issue you're in the middle of. All right, how many of you guys are connecting dots saying, okay, how is this put here for me? How will this make me better? What can I learn? Who am I becoming? What type of resistance, right, am I getting and muscle am I building because of it? These are all the things we got to look, which redefines what we're going through right now. Some of you guys might say, Blake, well, this is all this motivational stuff, right? Mindset stuff. Well, what's your alternative belief? Your alternative belief is what? That everything happens totally randomly, totally, happenstance. There's no meaning behind anything. We're just particles floating through the world and colliding into each other. You can choose to believe that. There's only one way to interpret what's happening. It's happening for no reason at all, or it's happening for just the right reason at all. And the reality is you're never going to know which is which. And here's the real reality. Whichever one you choose to believe is the truth. So forget the limiting belief of, hey, you have no control. Choose to take the belief that there's meaning behind it. It's just a matter of you choosing which way to look at it. They're both equally true. But where you focus expands. What you put energy into continues. And that's why, guys, if you continue to focus on a problem, the problem gets bigger. If you continue to play the victim, you're going to continue to get challenged. If you continue to look at things as the obstacles in the way and why is this happening to you, more will be put in front of you. But if you choose to make the shift, the problem ain't the problem. The problem is there to make us better. What can I learn from this? How do I become better? Once I got the lesson, I will move past this. And not move past this to a place where there's more problems. No, I'll just move past this to the next challenge that's going to make me even better and put me more on my path. That's how this works. Which I guess brings me to kind of the last point. I hate this word problem, because by definition, it's wrong. At least I believe it's wrong. So guys, instead of looking at the problems that we have, redefine it. It's a challenge to make you better. The greater the challenge, the greater the reward, because the bigger the opponent, the stronger you're going to get. It's not the obstacle, it's an opportunity. The obstacle is the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to learn, right? The opportunity to change, the opportunity to prove to yourself you can. The obstacle is the opportunity. Or maybe you get all the way to the language where these issues, these problems, these obstacles, these challenges, at the end of the day, aren't they gifts? Maybe wrapped in packaging we don't like, but gifts. Gifts given to us to allow us to continue on our own path toward becoming who we're meant to be, toward doing what we're meant to do, to becoming the best version of ourselves, to be in the constant pursuit of progress and better, to keep us from getting stagnant and stale. And without those gifts, guys, life wouldn't have the variety. Life wouldn't have the excitement. We wouldn't have the growth. Maybe they got to rechange the title of that kid's book, like, what do I do with a gift? So there's some thoughts, guys, on problems inspired by bedtime stories with Greyson. And my big lesson is this. I'm sitting here reading a story written to reframe a perception of problems to a kid. And my son comes back and says, well, Dad, I've never had a problem. Who am I to try to reframe a perception that he doesn't even have? How's that for irony? Best answer I could give. I'm sitting here trying to change a perception, and his perception is he's never even had one. So why am I trying to shift something that's not even there yet? And how often, guys, do we have that in our own lives? So guys, here's a view from the top. Sun is coming out here in Southern California. Beautiful day. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to wish you a problem-free week. I'm going to wish you the strength that you need to get through what you're going through, and the wisdom in order to extract the gift that it's meant to give, no matter what is presented in your way, knowing that is normal and the path that we're all on. Hey guys, give me some feedback below if this resonated with you. What did? If you have any opinions to add to the conversation, I read all the comments below. One of the greatest gifts you can give is sharing information, inspiration with others. Tag someone in the comments. Share this with your peer group. And again, check out past conversations on the podcast, Alive by Design. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Go ahead and leave a rate and review on the podcast. Those help get the podcast in front of even more people to make a bigger ripple and bigger impact. And until then, good luck with everything presented in your way. And may today's conversation make you rethink how you approach it, how you get through it, and how you become better because of it. Have a great day, everybody.